Okay, Andy, hi. Hello, Andy. Andy, hello. Andy, are you there?
Let's start again. Maybe I just shouldn't have been here. what,
Andy,
what
hello.
did you
Can you hear
actually
me?
hear, Tim?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, right. Welcome then. Start the show. It's Sunday, the 10th of August. It's Andy, Shakespeare.com. So I got it right the first time I said it, ShakespeareCodex.com. And have a look at 7nilpictures.com. Our friend is going to showcase his films on there shortly, and Tim's helping him with that. FilmTalkRadioOnline.com and YouTube, of course, which is Talk Radio Live UK. Today, Tim, I thought we'd firstly talk about what you think of the Putin and Trump. They're going to do a bit of negotiating. The trouble is, Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader, is not allowed to go for some reason. They just said that tonight. I find that a bit suspicious. Then we realise that a lot of the Jews are Russian. The top Russian leaders are Jews. We can bring in then Freemasonry. We can bring in the Lord and everyone in between if you want. So, what do you think of? So this is Tim anyway, author Timothy Spearman. Google his name. He's wrote some amazing books. Unfortunately, the establishment won't let them get sold.
Well, that's going to change, Andy. We have a plan.
We have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not into this war, but just on a fair basis, if someone's arguing about my land or my war, I want to actually be there. So I think Zelensky's got a reason to be there. They're already teasing Zelensky already because Russia said, look to Trump, well, if you give me a bit of land, and Trump says, well, no problem, I think we can manage that, and Zelensky's not even there. I don't know if they're all bad as each other, just one of them, or, what do you think?
Well, I don't really trust um, any of the world leaders, and I do think all the world's staged and we are merely played. Um, I do think it is all an elaborate stage show employing stagecraft, and it's all orchestrated and fabricated, and there are false flag emergencies for just about every occasion so they can advance their agenda. Problem, reaction, solution. They really did a good job with the COVID-19 pandemic. They created the virus using gain of function technology. Um, the national, the NHS, headed by Anthony Fauci, funded the gain of function research in Wuhan, China, in a military lab, a bioweapon laboratory. Some of the scientists working with the Chinese were actually sent there by the NHS. The funding was disguised so that you couldn't see that the funding had come directly from the NHS, because Peter Danzig, who headed Eco Alliance, was acting as the conduit. They sent the money as a front organization to hide the source of funding. Then, once having created the virus through gain of function technology, they caused this huge global reaction, which became known as the pandemic. And then they claimed they had found the antidote, which was this mRNA COVID vaccine put out by Pfizer and by Moderna. It wasn't a solution. It was posed as the solution, as the antidote rather. It was just another problem for which there would be another reaction and another solution. And just like Microsoft has operating systems which produce their own viruses and then offer antivirus software, which is both a virus and an antivirus software program, it has problem reaction solution built into its operating systems. And so when Bill Gates got behind the funding of Moderna, not surprisingly, the same problem reaction solution dialectic was implemented for the mRNA vaccines put out by Moderna, with you getting boosters to update your operating system, which the mRNA vaccine had installed in your body, an actual operating system. So, so it's exactly the same MO that was originally used in Microsoft software installed in the human genome. And they said the mRNA vaccine would not change our DNA, and that's a patent lie. It's effectively turned us into a genetically modified organism. And it's deleted the God gene because DARPA had determined that the best way to control populations worldwide was by eviscerating any spirituality from the population. And Rudolf Steiner had warned about this. In the future, he claimed there would be supposed vaccines that would be used to eviscerate all spirituality from human beings. And if you don't have an abiding belief in God or a higher purpose to life, a greater spiritual purpose to life, then you have no raison d'etre, basically. You have no reason to resist. You have no reason to oppose any regime, because you're now basically without purpose. You are not a spiritual being any longer, and you have no reason for being. You have no raison d'etre. You have no purpose. So why would you oppose the regimes of the world? Why would you wish to? You would have no motive to. You'd have no reason. And that's exactly what the elites want, a completely compliant, subservient, docile population.
Yeah, and there's a good book out there by this author called The Science of the COVID-19 Pandemic. It's by yourself, Timothy Spearman, and
Yeah,
yeah,
folks. I
which
mean, it's offered free as an ebook, so go ahead and grab it. Have a good read. There's all kinds of science that is explored in this book that's little known COVID science. Educate yourself. Go ahead. It's there, and it's extremely well researched. And I am a good writer. I am a quality writer, and you will find that it's an engaging read. But certain things that I raise in this book are just mind blowing, like the fact that it was found that people with a high ratio of Neanderthal genetics or Denisovan genetics, those are ancient cousins of the Homo sapien. So, what it looks like is that the virus was devised as a bioweapon to chew away at the low end of the evolutionary tree. Um, you know, like for example, the Bangladesh population has a high ratio of Neanderthal genetics. And in Toronto, Brampton, which is in the Greater Toronto area, has a high South Asian population, but um, there's a big Bangladeshi community in Brampton, and it had one of the highest infection rates in the city. It, in fact, I believe, had the highest infection rate. And so, what's the common denominator here? Bangladeshis have a high ratio of Neanderthal genetics. And there's a pretty large Bangladeshi community in the UK. And as you can guess, there was a high infection rate in that community as well. So, yeah, I get into the gain of function technology in this book and what it consisted of and how they were able to achieve this gain of function bioweapon, this virus. And lots of other scientifically significant discoveries that you need to know about. And please, I invite you. What's preventing you from getting the book? Absolutely nothing. It's an ebook. It's free, offered free on Kindle, Amazon Kindle.
yeah, what makes things even better is if people, read it, then tell everybody else about it, and tell them to research your other work that's out there, and they can form their own opinion then.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not going to be disappointed. There's a lot of hard research that's gone into my books, and they're very enlightening and they're engaging because they're all well written. Okay, so the um, topics for today, Andy. What are we going to start with?
Well, I was starting with the Putin Trump thing with Zelensky, and then was going to lead on to the dominance of Russians being Jews, and then linking it with Freemasonry and anywhere else you want to go. Or do you have a particular subject?
Well, there's just so much good fodder for today. It's hard to know where to start. Let's start with the idea that nukes and the threat of nuclear, thermonuclear war are also and all the world staged, and we are merely played. This is a good example. Um,
Yeah, probably. But then I'd get confused and I'd say, well, wasn't Hiroshima real? So I'll let you start us off then.
I did a research essay with my daughter when she was at university for one of her electives, and it had to do with urban design. And Hiroshima recovered from a bombing, which I actually believe was a conventional bombing and was not a nuclear, it wasn't a hydrogen bomb, little boy, that was dropped on Hiroshima and also Nagasaki. It was I believe, a conventional bombing, albeit a very carpet bombing type of bombing effort, but it was not a hydrogen bomb that released 60 terabecquerels of radiation. No, it wasn't. I don't believe it. I mean, the city, just looking at Hiroshima, has completely recovered as one of the most beautiful modern cities in the world. And there's no long standing radiation mutations that have occurred in the population. There's no detectable radiation levels in the city. And the recovery of the population and the recovery of the city in terms of an urban environment is absolutely astounding. There is a memorial in the city center, a kind of peace memorial, commemorating what is supposed to have occurred. The actual city center is an elaborate memorial to the hydrogen bomb alleged attack upon the city, and it's also been designed to be a eco-friendly green city with canals that are um, nicely accommodating a green landscape along the canal banks, and it's incredibly impressive from a parks and recreation effort standpoint. And I just don't believe the official narrative of either city being nuked. Don't believe it. Now,
Yeah,
mhm,
according to the
mhm,
people we hate the most, which is the mainstream media, they're saying that to suggest Ishiroma wasn't a nuclear bomb is just conspiracy, but they would say that anyway. I mean, my point of view is what you're just saying. My little comment on that. I actually watched somebody. He's only a travel guide, and
mhm,
he did go to the statue and the memorial and all that recently. I saw it on YouTube, but he actually said, and his field of work on this travel channel, he was some kind of weapons or scientist in weapons for the army or something. And the first thing he said, and he smiled and then said no more, was just simply, "That's strange." They're letting us in here, and years ago there was an atomic bomb there. went off, but we're allowed to go so deep into these tunnels. You would have thought it had been, not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes, Andy? Andy, are you there? Something's wrong with the audio, Andy. This is an interesting addition to what we were talking about, Andy. In July 2025, Scotsman Thomas Judge told the Delling Pod why nuclear weapons do not exist. Anecdote number one, ex-British Prime Minister Harold Wilson confirmed Great Britain, the US, Russia have no nuclear deterrent. In December 1982, Thomas met former British PM Harold Wilson, a Yorkshireman. His full name was James Harold Wilson, and they got talking about the Aden emergency of 1963 to 67, when Wilson sent troops to their deaths, and this was causing him sleepless nights. Thomas asked him, "Why did you not push the big red button, the one that fires the missiles?" And Wilson replied, "My opinion, formulated to skirt around British Official Secrets Act, is that Britain does not have an effective nuclear deterrent. But I will caveat that by saying that it is not a problem because no one else has a nuclear deterrent either." So Thomas Thomas later asked, "Are you telling me that nukes don't exist?" To which Wilson gave the same reply. Wilson claimed he did not know for sure whether the US president was aware that there were in fact no nuclear weapons, but he said that the top Russian politicos were almost certainly aware of that fact. Okay, anecdote number two. Andy, can you hear me? Andy, can you hear me? Andy, hello. Andy. Andy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We haven't got a storm, but the internet is a bit dodgy. But it wasn't.
Oh,
It wasn't dodgy earlier.
okay. Let me continue. Anecdote number two. Leading British nuclear scientists confirmed that nuclear weapons do not exist. Aldermaston is an Air Force base in southern England that is tied to Britain's Atomic Weapons Research Establishment, which is basically the acronym AWRE, and also to many marches by the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, the acronym CND. The reason for the marches is because Aldermaston is only about 7 miles from Greenham Common. 1978, Thomas from Kilmarnock in Scotland shared a house with two top Aldermaston scientists who told him nuclear weapons do not exist, it is all a fraud. These scientists also went to the Greenham Common rallies where they openly advised the protesters that nuclear weapons are a complete fabrication and do not exist. Anecdote number three, British nuclear inspector confirmed that nuclear missiles have no nuclear warheads. Thomas's brother worked for British military, MOD, police at the British Navy base in Faslane on Clyde, Scotland. Before his death in 2010, Thomas's brother confirmed to him several times that nuclear weapons do not exist. Also, whenever the Greenham Common CND protesters came to Foss Lane, Thomas's brother would shout at them, "Just go home. We do not have anything here. There is nothing to see. Honestly, we do not have anything. I do not know what you are all worried about." Thomas's brother also spent years patrolling British nuclear submarines and military bases, and on occasion took a closer look. He could recognize that missiles indeed existed, but that they had no actual warheads. Hence, he could see that these were in fact wholly unarmed pretend missiles. The key scientific crux. Thomas says the key scientific crux is nuclear fission is non-explosive because all explosions are gas-related. There were explosions at the nuclear power plants at Chernobyl and Fukushima, but there were gas explosions that were caused by the buildup of hydrogen. They were not nuclear explosions, and that is because nuclear fission is not explosive and it must be induced and moderated. In Fukushima today, you get more radiation from the Team Antichrist scanner at the airport security gates than you do from the environment. The notorious mushroom cloud faked in the Trinity site video is white at the top, which is just water vapor from the TNT. Then it is all yellow, which is a hydrogen fire caused by hydrogen gas or else gasoline burning. Then you see smoke, but that is just from the combustion of the target's own hydrocarbons. In a nuclear reactor, the neutrons escape from the core of the nuclear reactor and into the moderator, which is usually water. This heats up the water and slows the neutrons down. The key is that this process continues many times while the steam that is generated drives turbines, and generates electricity. Thus, we are actually living in the age of steam because nuclear energy is in fact steam-powered energy. By contrast, the purely theoretical nuclear bomb is a non-existent, small, portable, unmoderated, uncooled nuclear reactor. And because a nuclear weapon has no moderator, the neutrons must fly away. They just fly away. That means that none of the neutrons is captured, hence no heat, and thence there can be no chain reaction in nuclear weapon. In a nutshell, a nuclear weapon has no explosion and no chain reaction. Hence, a nuclear weapon cannot work. Why Hiroshima and Nagasaki were hoaxes? On May 31st, 1945, U.S. physicist Arthur Compton told the Fake Manhattan Project's interim committee that it would take at least 2 more years to develop plutonium purification, and that it would take a further year, up to 1948, to obtain a sufficient quantity of plutonium. The minutes of this meeting also state that even reactor-grade uranium was in short supply in May 1945, meaning insufficient for any atomic bombs. Thus, we can conclude from the documents and experimental studies that it was impossible to build atomic bombs in the summer of 1945. Oppenheimer was one of the top 4 fake scientists of all time, along with Newton, Einstein, and Stephen Hawking. In June of 2025, Zio-fascist Donald Trump claimed he bombed 3 Iranian enrichment facilities. But Thomas asked, if a uranium-based nuclear bomb was never ever tested and could never ever work, why on earth would Iran even be enriching uranium in the first place? Thomas says uranium exists in the earth as about 2% of an ore. Essentially, there are 3 major isotopes of uranium: UT38, UT35, and UT34. Bomb builders focus on UT35, which only comprises about 0.7% of the raw material. Enrichment means increasing the proportion of UT35 to roughly 80%. Thus, you need around 115 times more volume of raw uranium for that enrichment to work. Effectively, the alleged design of the non existent uranium nuke deployed at Hiroshima was firing a bullet at a piece of 75% enriched UT35 in a gun barrel, which allegedly produced a nuclear reaction. But Thomas says that this is nonsense because it would never work. Hence, it is a pure fantasy to allege that Iran would even be enriching uranium to copy this failed Hiroshima design. Also, modern bomb technology, which also does not work, is alleged to be plutonium based. So, why did the recent Trump Iranian bombing even involve uranium? Conclusion: Thomas sums up the motive for taking the existence of nukes as follows. For faking the existence of nukes as follows: to control the slaves, the controllers need fear on one side and money on the other. The second reason is that nukes provide Team Antichrist with a reason to justify the existence of supranational governance bodies to bully independent, spirited nations. A third reason is to give Team Antichrist a welcome opportunity to loot taxpayer money via nuclear accidents such as the alleged Fukushima nuclear accident. 260 billion US dollars Chernobyl. 200 billion US dollars. Okay. Thomas rounds off with a powerful synopsis. It is called brainwashing. We have lived for 80 years under the threat of a nuclear holocaust and the destruction of the world because of some videos that somebody forged. Now just look at the video. It is an explosion in a mushroom cloud, but that is not actually possible. And if nuclear fission is not explosive, then where did the explosion come from? In a nutshell, nukes are about as genuine as okay, Andy, that's the end of that story.
Yeah, definitely, email. Howard Wilson used to pretend that you can nukes. He used to call it.
Okay, Andy, I've got another story for us. Have you heard of the Talmud? In Judaism, there is the holy book, the Torah, which contains the Ten Commandments of Moses, and it's referred to by Christians as the Old Testament, and then there's the New Testament, which chronicles the lifetime of Jesus. Um, but the Talmud is like the book of the law, but it's paradoxical that it would even be called or even referred to in those terms because it's about lawlessness. Um, it's a depraved Luciferian text. It's the Babylonian Talmud, and apparently it was introduced into Judaism during the period of exile in Babylon. The Talmud commands the breach of all 10 commandments. So the later text actually repudiates and renders of non significance the original Hebrew Bible, the Torah. Judaism um, purports that the Jews are the chosen people. Apparently, they lost their chosen status over 1500 years ago because Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 9, 28, verse 9, made their chosen status conditional on obeying all 10 commandments by stating, "The Lord your God will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to him." But the Talmud decrees openly that Jews must break all 10 commandments. Hence, it is very obvious that they have lost their chosen status. And so the Talmud claims to override the Bible by giving devout Jews impunity to break all the 10 commandments. Commandment number 1, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no strange gods before me. In his 2000 book, Judaism, Strange Gods, Michael Anthony Hoffman II, a Jewish researcher, exposed how Judaism is actually in fact polytheistic and also debunked many myths associated with today's Judaism, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Judeans of the Bible. In fact, today's Judaism was not finalized until 500 AD as the denial of Jesus. 10 strange gods that every devout Jew must worship in order to qualify as sufficiently holy. 1. Self-worship. Every devout Jew must worship him or herself. 2. Worship of the Jewish people as a whole who are God. Kevin Barrett relates how Jewish professor Sandra Lebarsky shocked him by stating, "Today we Jews all agree that God means the Jewish people. The secret Talmudic plan is for today's Jewish Holocaust museums to serve as future temples where the Goyim, the cattle, that's what it literally means, will worship their Jewish owners as God." Moloch, sacrifice deity worshipped by Jews in Soldier Field, Chicago in 1933. Remphan, child sacrifice deity whose satanic hexagram symbol is on the Antichrist State of Israel's flag. 5. The devil, Beelzebub, Baal, who's also called the sacred universal serpent. The holy rabbi, holy in inverted commas, Michael Laitman confirmed the serpent, the devil, is the angel of help. We Jews should be grateful to the serpent. And point 6, Lucifer, called Hillel in Hebrew, and thus honored in the names of innumerable synagogues. Jews separate Lucifer from Satan. In 1976, Harold Wallace Rosenthal, a Jew, a powerful Zionist Jew, said, "Most Jews do not like to admit it, but our God is Lucifer, and we are his chosen people. Our God, Lucifer, is very much alive." And point 7, Saturn, esoteric substitute for Satan. Devout Jews wear tefillin or phylacteries, a set of black leather boxes to help them worship Saturn as a proxy for Satan. Point 8, the female Kabbalistic demon Shekinah, devout Jews worship it at Jerusalem's Antonia fortress wall. And point 9, the male Kabbalistic demon Insof, worshipped by devout Jews at Jerusalem's Antonia fortress wall. And point 10, Kabbalistic demon Lilith, the first witch and Adam's first wife, also worshipped by devout Jews at the Antonia fortress wall. Okay,
Interesting.
isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if my last comment was heard because I don't know what's happening with the internet today. But on that note, anyway, I find this coincidental again because I was looking up, you know, Jews in England.
Yeah,
When did they first come over here?
yeah.
According to the National Archives,
Mm-hmm.
they came into England in 1066. Apparently, Norman conquest promoted the arrival of Jews to England for the first time. William, I needed to borrow large sums of money to consolidate his position as King of England, and he turned to Jewish merchants from Rouen, Normandy, to provide him with this much needed income. Lending money with interest or usually usury, so it was forbidden to Christians and considered a sin. As a result, the English king paved the way for Jewish individuals to migrate and settle across the Channel. Jews and Christians now live alongside each other in settlements across the country. Of course, 1066, I'm linked to that year as well in my. Funnily enough, we talked about this before 1066
Yeah.
and my links, but I just realised I was born in 1966. So, there's kind of a theme going there somewhere.
Mm. That's interesting. I didn't know you were 2 years younger than me.
Yeah, boy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, this makes me feel old now. I said that.
Okay, so let me continue. Jerusalem's Antonia fortress wall was not part of the Second Temple. The real Wailing Wall was located near the Gihon Spring, about 1 kilometer from the Antonia fortress. The lewd ceremony, davening, simulates copulation to encourage an erotic union of the female Kabbalistic demon Shekinah with the male Kabbalistic demon Insof. Acts chapter 7, verse 43 confirms that the Judeans were exiled for the worship of Moloch or Remphan. You also took along the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god, Remphan, images which you made to worship. Therefore I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. Already in the Old Testament, in the book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 26 and 27, reinforced the latter by confirming, you also carried the tabernacle of your Remphan, your idols, the star of your gods, which you made for yourselves. Therefore I will send you into exile beyond Damascus, says the Lord, the God of hosts in his name. Commandment number 2, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Ages ago, Zionist Hollywood and television turned the holy name of Jesus into a swear word. The Talmud blasphemes against Jesus with Talmud Gittin 57a stating Jesus is in hell being boiled in hot excrement. Talmud Sanhedrin 43a states Jesus practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy. John, the book of John, chapter 2:22, equates the ancient and modern positions of Judaism with that of the Antichrist. Who is a liar? It is whoever denies that Jesus is the Christ. He is Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son. Commandment number 3, remember to keep holy the Lord's day. The Talmud profanes the day of rest by forbidding Gentiles to rest on the Sabbath. Talmud Tractate Sanhedrin 58 states, Rish Lakish, Simon ben Lakish, also said, a heathen Gentile who keeps a day of rest deserves death, for it is written, and a day and a night they shall not rest, and a master has said, their prohibition is their death sentence. Rabina, the Talmudic sage, said, even if he rested on a Monday, the whole tenor of the Talmud dictates that the goyim, the cattle, the swine, that must toil 24/7, 365 days a year for their Jewish masters. Commandment number 4, honor thy father and mother. The Talmud authorizes that one may strike parents without wounding them while they are alive, but there are no limitations on striking them after death. I recall reading recently, Andy, that the so-called Emancipation Declaration signed in 1868, I believe it is, by Abraham Lincoln, which ostensibly is claimed to have liberated African Americans from slavery, in fact, enslaved the entire population of the United States under a slave law. And as it stated, we serve our masters. And it's interesting that the Jews claimed that the Nazis declared themselves to be the master race when they openly, unashamedly call themselves the chosen people. Who's the master race? Excuse me? There is no white supremacy. White European supremacy is nonsense. There is, however, Jewish supremacist ideology. They insist they're the chosen people and believe it. I had a guy on academia.edu who read my article, The Logos of Mass Media Culture, and he said, I don't know, I'm assuming that this is an article about my people, the best people. And I said, are you suggesting that because you're the chosen people, you're the best people? I'm sorry, but I just don't believe that. No God would have a favorite among his children. We are all equal under God, and he loves all of his children equally. No favoritism. It's all Jewish propaganda. I'm sorry, there is no chosen people status to any tribe on the planet. Nonsense. Unbelievable how many people believe it. But there you go. Okay, so Andy, any comment?
No, I found another article that's linking everything together a little bit.
Yes.
Well, I was talking about Trump and Putin earlier and Zelensky trying to get some peace.
Yeah.
Some people think the war's already started. So Patrick O'Carroll, a good internet writer that sends me articles regular, he's publishing on henrymako.com. That's Henry, MAKOW.com.
Henry Macau, yeah, he's a
Macau,
Canadian.
yeah, I think this is worth listening to. I'll try and do it quickly. Yeah, so Patrick says, in his opinion, World War III is the third Masonic Jewish World War. As we enter World War III, remember that all world wars are contrived by Satanist Jews and Freemasons to degrade and destroy Christian civilization and exterminate Christians, assimilated Jews, and anyone who refuses to accept their tyranny. He talks about the Shabbat which seeks the genocide of all Christians in the Christian Holocaust, which it dubs the three-part War of Gog and Magog in 1892 to 1920. The Shabbat was headed by the Holy Rabbi Salam Dov Bashirson, who just wanted chaos and war because the Gnostic dualist Luciferian religion of the Shabbat says the final Antichrist will not come to earth unless the Jews have first done their holy duty by genociding most Christians and also done their holy duty by creating a world war conflagration of total chaos. I mean, we're definitely in a bit of chaos. Apparently, the second point he's making is the English monarchy is the most famous purveyor of genocide in history. Its most notable successes include the 10 Irish Holocausts, roughly 20 Indian Holocausts, China's Opium Holocaust, and the COVID farmer genocide, the latter mainly together with its partners in crime, Rockefeller and Rothschild. The architect-in-chief of both World War One and Two was Edward the V11. I'm assuming that's 7. Who was
Edward the Seventh.
was head of British Freemasonry and British intelligence. There's a few points. It goes on to talk about Albert Pike's plan.
I can tell you that
and the City of London, the City of London being the bankers behind the plan.
Yeah.
And Edward the Seventh again. I mean, he mentions Edward the Seventh quite a lot, so you might actually know that without even me reading all that.
Andy, the highest Masonic lodge is B'nai B'rith, which means Sons of the Covenant. So that means Luciferian Jews control Freemasonry at the top. They are the missing capstone of the pyramid, the entire pyramid. And think about the use of our English words capital and capitalism. Capital is the missing capstone that is the capital of a country. And
But
London,
also, it could mean as well, couldn't it? Capital city, capital capstone, but also capital meaning money.
yeah, but that's the point. Cap it all. They cap it all
Capital
with their financial capital from the financial capitals all around the planet. That's what the word is derived from, capital. They're the missing capstone that cap it all across the planet. And they trade in gold while the Goyim trade in silver, which is what the dollar is. And the dollar is the moon, representative of the moon goddess. That's why the dollar sign spells Isis, the moon goddess. And the third world trades in the copper element, the bronze element, copper pennies. And they get paid 17 or 19 cents per hour to do their labor. So it's essentially a slave population that gets a subsistence allowance, allowing them to survive. So that's the caste system of the planet. The first world, comprised by the Luciferian Jews and other Luciferians, and then beneath that, the second world, which is the Goy, the middle class Goy, who get paid in silver. And obviously, trading in silver dollars was inconvenient, because if you've got a pocket full of silver, it's a little burdensome. So they issued paper notes to symbolize the silver dollar. And the dollar sign actually spells Isis, Isis, the moon goddess. Yeah.
Well, we are merely played.
Indeed. Okay, so do you want to
Didn't you
carry
write?
on?
Didn't you write an article about that?
Yes, at some point I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's posted at my academia.edu page. They cap it all is the name of the article.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to finish up on then today?
Um, I'm going to commandment number 5, thou shalt not kill. In general, Jews must murder, genocide, or human sacrifice Gentiles because they are, in their minds, cattle. Talmud Abodah Zara 26b, even the best of Gentiles should be killed. Talmud Zaba Messiah 116:6, the Jews are human beings, but the nations of the world comprised of Goyim are not human beings, but beasts. Okay, thank you very much. Talmud Zephyr Ikarim the third, C25. It is permitted to take the body and the life of a Gentile. Talmud Bamidbar Rabbah C21 and Jalkut 772. Every Jew who spills the blood of the godless Gentiles is doing the same as making a sacrifice to God. Talmud Baba Nesia on 114:6. The Jews are human beings, but the nations of the world, the Goyim, are not human beings, but beasts. Talmud Sanhedrin 57a. When a Jew murders a Scythian, a Gentile, there will be no death penalty. What a Jew steals from a Gentile, he may keep. Talmud Sanhedrin 58b. If a heathen Gentile hits a Jew, the Gentile must be killed. Talmud Hikok Akum 11. Do not save Goyim in danger of death. I'm interested in the motto of the police: serve and protect. Serve and protect whom exactly? In Toronto, a lot of very, very affluent Jewish people live in Forest Hill. It's, in terms of real estate value, the highest real estate value location there is, pretty much in Toronto. And it's guarded by a police station at the north end of Forest Hill on Eglinton Avenue, at Eglinton and Yonge, and right near Eglinton West Station. Two police stations guarding Forest Hill at the top. Serve and protect whom? The rich, the powerful, the bankers, those who control, those who are capping the capstone at the top of the pyramid, the missing capstone. They control it all. They cap it all. And they have a police force that serves and protects them.
Do you know I was trying to find, somebody sent us it once.
Mm.
There is a definition of what police actually means, and the first two words
Mm-hmm.
is public order, but yeah. They want to keep the public at bay so the rich can get richer and the poor can get poorer.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. You know, Ken, our friend, told me about what's been going on in India. Jews have come and settled in northern India, built a lot of synagogues, and they've claimed the land. They said that they came to this land thousands of years ago, and they are restaking their claim, and no Indians are welcome on their land. Can you imagine the goal? If I were Indian, I'd say, okay, well, you may have visited this land and even occupied this land thousands of years ago, but we occupied the land thousands upon thousands of years before you ever came here. So the land you are claiming as your territory is not, never was, never could be, and never will be. And guess what? Because you've insulted the true owners of the land with your audacious claim, get out. And by the way, persona non grata, you are declared um, forbidden. You can't come back and you can't return. Goodbye. That's what the Indian government has to do. This is unbelievable. I mean, it's like the same argument made for seizing the land of Palestine on the grounds that they had occupied that so-called holy land or promised land thousands of years before, and they are just returning to reclaim their land. They could have that argument made in all kinds of contexts, in all kinds of lands that they formerly visited around the world. So what? I don't care whether you were there thousands of years ago or not. It's not your land. No, you can't claim it. It's not yours to claim. I mean,
Yeah, and
the arrogance and the
that's the point.
audaciousness of these chosen people, these Jewish supremacists, is astounding. The arrogance, the arrogance is astounding. Master race, the Nazis? I don't think the German Nazis ever claimed it. They denied it in the Nuremberg trials that they ever claimed or made a claim to being the master race. And I think Jews are showing themselves, at least the Talmudic Jews, those who follow the Talmud, are showing themselves to be hypocrites. And, you know, this charge of anti Semitism for anyone who criticizes Jews or Judaism is another example of hypocrisy, because they make all kinds of racist claims. The Talmudists do, those who adhere to the Talmud, they make all kinds of racist claims against non-Jews, against the goyim, against the cattle. Um, not only making racist claims, but advocating violence against non-Jews. And yet that's okay. No problem. Exonerated. Get away with it every time. Cannot be criticized for it. Completely free to do it. Because of the power that they wield and the control that they have. But all I'm doing is making points of criticism, which I should be allowed to do. I make points of criticism against Britain and the British government. Does that mean I'm anti-British? Absolutely not. They're my forefathers. I love British people. They are my people. Do I make criticisms of Italian mafia? Absolutely, I do. I do not support the mafia. That doesn't make me anti-Italian. I absolutely love Italians and Italy. I love Italian culture.
And their food is amazing.
Oh, I
Better
know.
than the mountains. The food is better than the mountains.
Yeah, wonderful.
I love them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. In her 1964 book, The Jewish Religion, Its Influence Today, Elizabeth Dilling wrote, adultery is permitted with the wife of a minor and the wife of a non-Jew. The pretense is that a minor not being a man yet and the non-Jew having non-human status. So biblical law does not apply. Goyim, livestock, cattle basically, being non-human makes it endless open season to kill, rob, lie to, and enslave all goyim. Talmud Gad Shas 2, chapter 2, verse 2. A Jew may violate, rape, but not marry a Gentile girl. Talmud Aboda Sarah 37a. A Gentile girl who is 3 years old can be violated, raped. Talmud Kethoboth 11b. When a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing. Talmud Sanhedrin 54b. A Jew may have sexual intercourse with a child as long as the child is less than 9 years old. Talmud Yebamath 59b. A woman who had intercourse with a beast is eligible to marry a Jewish priest. A woman who has sexual intercourse with a demon is eligible to marry a Jewish priest too. I mean, can you believe this stuff? It's unbelievable. I can't say enough about this text, the Talmud. It's in my book, in my books, the most evil book ever published. I don't understand how it can be the basis of Judaism. Oh. So apparently the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish organization, the Anti-Defamation League was created so that these pedophile crimes committed by Talmudists could be opposed, and that those offending Jews could be protected on the grounds of defamation. That's what the original purpose of the ADL was. Okay, commandment number 7, thou shalt not steal. Generally, Jews must steal the property of all nations without any scruple, and Jews must have no scruples. Okay, well, the example I just gave of India and the claim that they had been there thousands of years ago, so they're just reclaiming territory that is theirs. Well, that's theft of land from a foreign country, isn't it? And Talmud, Sulshan Aruk, Choshen Yamizpat, 348. All property of other nations belongs to the Jewish nation, which consequently is entitled to seize upon it without any scruple. An Orthodox Jew is not bound to observe principles of morality toward people of other tribes. He may act contrary to morality if profitable to himself or to Jews in general. Talmud Sulshan Aruk Choshan Ham Ichpat 348. A Jew may rob a goy, that is, he may cheat him in a bill, if unlikely to be perceived by him. Talmud Tosefta Abda Zara 8. 5. How to interpret the word robbery. A goy is forbidden to steal, rob, or take women, slaves, etc. from a goy or from a Jew, but a Jew is not forbidden to do all this to a goy. Talmud Baba Kema 37b. The Gentiles are outside the protection of the law, and God has exposed their money to Israel. Talmud Zeph JP 92:1. God has given the Jews power over the possessions and blood of all nations. Talmud Sanhedrin 57a. A Jew need not pay a Kuthian, a Gentile, the wages owed him for work. Talmud Baba Messiah 24a. If a Jew finds an object lost by a heathen, a Gentile, it does not have to be returned. We have an expression for that: finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Okay. Commandment number 8, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. In general, Jews must deceive and steal from Gentiles. Talmud Zelshan Aruk Choshan Hamishpat on 156. When a Jew has a Gentile in his clutches, another Jew may go to the same Gentile, lend him money, and in turn deceive him, so that the Gentile should be ruined. For the property of a Gentile, according to our law, belongs to no one, and the first Jew that passes has full right to seize that land from the Gentile, that property from the Gentile. Talmud Seshbuth Hag 60. Jews may swear falsely by use of subterfuge wording. Talmud Baba Kama 113a. Jews may use subterfuge lies to circumvent a Gentile. Talmud Nadarim 23b. He who desires that none of his vows made during the year be valid, let him stand at the beginning of the year and declare, every vow which I may make in the future shall be null. His vows are then invalid. Every single day of their lives, most Jews bear false witness against the Germans using the 6 million story about the Holocaust. 6 million Jews supposedly dying in the Holocaust. But the World Almanac certified that in 1933 to 47, the world's population for Jews grew by 2.44% from 15 million to 15.690 million. And we have a link here, Andy, that you might share to attest to that. Furthermore, the meticulous Red Cross certified in 1948 that 104,572 Jewish people had died tragically of disease, but not by genocide in the Jewish Holocaust. Also, most Jews bear false witness by trying to label any disagreement with a Jew as being anti-Arabic, despite the fact that DNA evidence given by Johns Hopkins University proves that only 1% of Jews are Arabic, that is Semitic. The overall study findings were 97.5% of Jews are Japhanic Khazars. 1% of Jews are African, the Falasha from Ethiopia. 0.5% of Jews are Asiatic, but only about 1% of Jews are Arabic or Semitic. So the claim of anti-Semitism isn't even valid because most Jews are not actually Semitic. Okay, so commandment number 9, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. The Talmud commands devout Jews to covet the bodies and lives of Gentiles. Talmud Sefer Ikarim 3, C25. It is permitted to take the body and the life of a Gentile. That makes coveting one's neighbor's wife okay if she is a Gentile, shiksa or shikse, which means hooker. Note, Jews refer to a Gentile woman as a shiksa, meaning hooker, whore, basically. Effectively, a woman you send for from the German or Yiddish shikken, and partly from the Hebrew shikesh, which means abomination, impure, or object of loathing. Well, at the end of World War II, you wouldn't believe what, under the Allies' occupation, happened to the German women. It's believed that no German woman was not raped, and some of them were subject to the worst, most depraved and cruel gang rape, and in some tragic cases, pipes and other horrible objects were rammed into their vaginas, and they were just left to bleed to death and die in the streets. Horrible. Commandment number 10, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. The Talmud orders Jews to covet, grab, take away the assets of all Gentiles of all nations and of the entire world. Talmud Tosefta Abda Zara the seventh. 5. How to interpret the word robbery. A goy is forbidden to steal, rob, or take women slaves, etc. from a goy or from a Jew, but a Jew is not forbidden to do all this to a goy. Talmud Baba Kama 37b. The Gentiles are outside the protection of the law, and God has exposed their money to Israel. Jews may steal the property of all nations and must control or own their Gentile populations as livestock. Talmud Seth JP 92:1. God has given the Jews power over the possessions and blood of all nations. Conclusion: the Talmud claims to override the Bible, the Torah, by giving devout Jews impunity to break every single commandment. Many Christians think Judaism is just another religion. Not true. Judaism is more like a plan to kill, steal, and destroy, firstly targeting all Christians and then targeting all others. But no one knows if this plan will succeed. In case of doubt, the Talmud actually overrides the Old Testament, the Torah, on pain of death, because Talmud Eribin 21b commands, "My son, be more careful in the observance of the words of the scribes than in the words of the Torah." Old Testament. For in the law of the Torah there are positive and negative precepts, but as to the laws of the scribes, whoever transgresses any of the enactments of the scribes incurs the penalty of death. Judaism is today 90% satanic or Luciferian. Talmud, 9% black magic Kabbalah and 1% Old Testament. The Talmud is supremacist hate speech that is primarily satanic inversion of the Old Testament. In particular, Christian Zionists should be shocked at how easily they were duped into supporting the Antichrist state of Israel. So Henry Makow published this article by Patrick O'Carroll on the Talmud. Henry Makow is a devout Christian, a convert from Judaism to Christianity. He became so disenchanted and appalled by Judaism that he converted to Christianity. I know Henry. I've met him. I've dined with him and had good discussions with him. He even published one of my articles on his website. He was a professor at York University, and he lost his tenured position at York University because of his book, Feminism and the New World Order, and his take on radical feminism is basically what caused him to be fired from his tenured position at York University. He's a former journalist as well, and Trivial Pursuit, the game, the card game, basically, he invented it with some colleagues, some fellow journalists. That was his game. Very interesting. Okay, so where we go with our discussion, Andy? It's 2:26. How are you feeling? Do you need to go take a rest, mate? Andy, hello. Andy, I'm thinking since we've gone over time, maybe we should end the show. You need to rest. Andy, can you hear me? Andy, hello.